Hey parents, it's Mr. Sunny with the Role Models podcast, where we invite real people that are doing really big things in the community on to really grow and help inspire your kids to reach the next level in their growth and their own development. Today, I have Rena Patel on with us today, and she's going to be talking about all of the great things that she's doing for the world. She's so young and she's accomplished so much already, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear her story because it's something that I think a lot of you will be able to connect with. And she's doing a really great job. So, Rita, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really excited for people to hear what you have to say in your story. So, tell us what you're all about.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Rena Patel. I guess just to tell you a little bit about my story, about myself, is so currently I run an organization or a company called The Thinkers Global. We do workshops and run programs for students across the country, mainly in high schools and universities. I also personally speak, talking about all the things like redefining narratives, redefining leadership, how students can design a life that they really want to live. And I think my story just really started off with me visiting India from a really young age. I'd always been inspired by the summers that I spent there, and I'd always felt more connected to my identity as an Indian. And so I spent a lot of my childhood in India, and that led me to just really feel connected to my roots. And over time, my connection there led me to starting an organization called Ahana, where we did work in villages, and that really entered me into the space of education. And I worked with young women and disabled children specifically. But after working for a couple of years in that space, I was also in college at the time and kind of working in the corporate space, and I just went through this whole period of disillusionment in the aid system, but also just our systems in general, our political systems, our economic systems, our education systems. And I kind of exited college feeling like, how do we teach people how to become humans rather than just kind of like cogs in a machine?
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
So that kind of led me on this entire journey of I moved to India after I graduated from college. My parents weren't so excited about that part. I ended up turning down a bunch of corporate jobs and was supposed to go into banking, and ended up actually moving to India, working in slums and just traveling around the world and experimenting in different things and finding out who I really am and what I really want.
That's huge because I think so many kids, and I definitely felt this growing up, and I know you did as well, is that you're forced to really just become a cog in the wheel. That go to school, get a good job, make money, and then that's it. Like that's what your life should be. And understandably, I understand where our parents are coming from when they say those things, but there's so much more to life, and I feel that you're you're doing that. And someone at your age, what are you, like 26, 27? 25. Okay, so someone at your age of 25 years old to have been traveled the world and helped so many people so far and have realized that the truth in life is really about helping more people to achieve their greatness. And I think that's what really makes you an excellent role model. And I'm once again, I'm just so happy to have you here because I think you're such an inspiration, and your story is such an inspiration to little boys and girls all over the world. So I just wanted to thank you again for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Yeah.
And so tell me about your childhood and what it was like growing up. What were some of the challenges that you faced as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, when they hear that I was a really bad kid, are very surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I hated school. Preschool, I had timeout all the time. I remember being 6 and like my teacher, I didn't finish eating my food, I wouldn't nap, and so my teacher just like made me face the corner. And that's like always traumatized me. And when I came into kindergarten and first grade, I cried every day. My parents had to come to school with me and take turns sitting outside the classroom, so I would actually sit in the classroom. I got kicked out of my first grade class because I kicked a teacher.
Wow.
I was very bad, and I was never an A+ student. Most Asian kids in my school, there were very few, but most Asian kids in my school were in like AP and honors classes, and I took like maybe a couple of honors classes that were like easier to get into, but I was never in the highest math class, the highest science class. But I always say that my formal education taught me what I didn't want, and my informal education, which is the values that my parents brought me up with, those are what really stuck with me, because my parents, every year when I wanted to go to India, my parents never said no. My dad was always said this, which always stuck in my brain, and he was like, it doesn't matter. He never looked at our report cards. He'd always make my sisters and I sign our own report cards. He never wanted to go to parent-teacher conferences. He was like, it doesn't matter the grades you have now, it's who you end up at the end of the road. And for me, that always felt like more pressure, because it's, you can't cheat becoming a good human being. You actually have to be a good human being.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, really what the values and the experiences that my parents gave me that have really added to everything that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I think that's really touching, because you're right. It's not just about the grades, and it's not just about how well you're doing in school. Like, don't get me wrong, those things are really important, but it's also really important who you end up becoming. I know when I was in elementary school, middle school, and high school, I recently shared with a lot of our clients and families my report cards when I was a kid, and they were atrocious. Like, they were terrible. And I think it's really important for parents to remember that if you raise your kids with the proper values, and you raise your kids with the proper guidance, that they'll turn out better than expected. And I think that's like really important to remember. So you faced a lot of challenges in school and also in life. What's something that you really use to overcome your challenges?
Mm-hmm. I think I always came back to my, like, after I graduated from college, and everyone in my life was like, you're crazy. I was working at a corporation while I was in college, and getting paid really well, and then had another job after graduation at JP Morgan, and all my friends, all my family members, everyone was like, you're crazy for turning down these job offers, or not, taking these opportunities. My dad wanted me to take over our family business. And something inside of me was like, I need to follow what I want to do. I
Right.
like to follow my inner voice. And it led to a lot of relationships kind of like teetering. And I just realized that I needed to follow. There's something inside of me guiding me, and I needed to keep following that, because it had gotten me that far, and it would take me even farther. And I think having that faith is what really, really kept me going.
Yeah, so having that faith and confidence in yourself, where do you think that faith and confidence in yourself came from?
I think, and this may not be the answer everyone is looking for, but I think in being loved, honestly. I think when you feel so loved throughout your life, and you experience love, being loved by other people, and loving yourself, I think that instills a certain level of confidence. And I think it's when we don't feel like we belong, that we start acting out, that we start acting from a place of fear, from a place of scarcity. But then when we're loved by other people, and when we love ourselves, it's almost like we're overflowing with abundance. And so we start to see the world that way. And I think through the act of being loved, we can love other people, and in return love other people, and have people love us back, and then love them even more back. And I think that cycle of love is really what, for me, has given me a certain level of confidence and faith in what I'm doing.
That's awesome. That's really, really great. So what is your mission in life? What are your goals? What do you want to be able to accomplish?
I realized I recently had the realization that when I grow up, which I am grown up, but it was like one of those things of like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That I really want to educate, and I want to be a writer and teach. And I think right now, at the moment, should I go a bit into the projects that I'm working on?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear about it.
So I'm currently writing a book about my family's history, and it's something I started writing when I was really young, visiting my family members in India. I mean, at the time it was just my grandmother, and I really wanted to develop a closer relationship with her, because I realized the stories of her life and my past generations will never transfer into our current generation as first generation Indian Americans, especially as we settle here, as we start to have families here. We're physically not never going to be tied to India again.
Yeah.
And that really scared me. And I really wanted to compile those stories of my parents' lives, my grandparents' lives, the people who came long before that, my parents' migration history, and all of the ways that they lived, and also my own journey of just kind of discovering myself and discovering my identity. And I wanted to put it into a book. And so I'm currently a grad student at NYU right now, writing that book under kind of like the umbrella of the guidance of NYU professors. And then at the same time, I'm running a company called The Thinkers Global, where I speak and I facilitate at, like I said earlier, at high schools and universities across the country. And really everything that I talk about in my workshops and in my speaking is everything that I wish I knew when I started my journey. Everything that I wish I knew about meaning, like living a meaningful life, about navigating identity, about knowing where we're going, of kind of surviving in a world where people are constantly telling you 100 different things, but really at the end of the day you need to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
So we run workshops on all of these different types of topics, and we kind of have a whole curriculum built out. And my goal really with the thinkers, and even through my writing, is to be able to reach the masses of young people and give them the tools and the techniques that they need to live a meaningful and joyful life. And it's all the things that I wish I had and wish I learned in school from a young age. And I think if young people can get these tools a lot earlier on, we would be able to prevent a lot of the mental illnesses and problems that we see in society today.
So we've talked about this in the past, which I thought was really amazing that you were able to take notice of this. And it was the whole thing about the difference between the inside and the outside and
Mhm.
bringing those two together and how those two are different. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And so one of the challenges that I always had was, especially on my spiritual journey, as I was traveling, was how do you translate the spiritual, like all this intangible stuff, um, into the material world, right? Like how do you like confidence and self-esteem, but also like these deep in like authentic, vulnerable things that we hold deep inside. How do we bring all those ambitions and those kind of motivations into the world, and kind of act as that bridge between the inner and the outer? And I think that's the challenge that a lot of people have, of kind of like manifesting their internal reality to the external world. So in the thinkers, the programs that we have are divided into two parts. The first part is the inner and the second part is the outer, because I feel like we focus, especially in school, we focus so much on the outer, of like the external results and who you're going to be at the end of the day in terms of jobs or vocation or whatever it may be. But very little do we focus on like the spiritual internal aspect of human consciousness, the heart, the soul. And I feel like that is like the roots. It feels to me like a lot of time we're putting a band-aid on all of our problems, and we're not digging deep into the root of the human mind. And I think if we can teach kids how to develop a stronger mind and develop resilience, that will solve so many of the problems that we see today. And I don't think we'd even need to teach kids math and science if we can teach them how to have a steadfast mind and really stand on their own feet.
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest keys. And what we work on here with a lot of our students is really helping them improve their level of confidence, because we believe that if you help grow a child's confidence and if you help them really own themselves, that's when the true magic begins to happen. We can teach math and English all day long. We can teach them nouns and verbs and grammatical things and sentence structure and how to do fractions and algebra and all that stuff. But if we don't really work on the child's or the student's mindset, nothing is really going to change. So I think like I'm really happy that you said that because that feels like it really hits home for me. And I know that it really hits home for a lot of other people. So I'm so happy that there's somebody else that's working on a deeper level of education, not only for the mind, but also for the heart and soul. And
Mm.
that's what is really, really important. So I'm really happy that you said that. So it sounds like you have a lot of projects going on. You're at NYU, you're writing this book, you also have this nonprofit organization, and then you had that nonprofit in India, Ahana.
Hmm.
Um, do you ever struggle with focus?
Yeah.
Like doing stuff, and just being able to stay on task for an extended amount of time. Like before this, we were just talking about how you were writing a paper and you just finished that chapter of your book, and it was like 11 pages long. Like, how often are you getting up during those times that you're writing?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I've always dealt with, you know, and it was said that a lot of times people tell me, oh, you're unfocused because you have so many different interests. And I'm like, oh, well, really, I'm multifaceted and I just need to figure out how to hone in on that and just like be really skilled at like being able to focus on one or two things at a time. But I find actually I have multiple interests, but I'm able to say when I sit down, and what helps me a lot is that I prioritize like crazy. I have very, very in-depth productivity techniques that I use on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly schedule. And I check myself very, very often. And I have reset days for myself where I come back and really reprioritize. But one of the best things that I've learned is just doing deep work. And so blocking out 3 to 4 hours to focus on just one task. And so I have non-negotiable time. So like when I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I do my practices like yoga and meditation, which really grounds me. I journal for a bit and then I go deep into writing for 3 to 4 hours. And I do not see a single soul in the morning. I don't plan meetings during that time. I just make sure that I'm with myself and able to write. And then only after 12 o'clock, after I've eaten lunch and finished my daily writing for the day, do I go out and do my meetings. And so in the afternoons is when I really work on the business and,
Mhm.
do marketing stuff, emails, meetings, all of that. And then in the evening, I'll have class or something like that. So that's how I prioritize my days. And waking up early is a big part of that, just so I can get everything in and I'm clearer like in terms of mindset when I wake up in the morning and I'm more focused that way.
That's really cool. I've recently started doing yoga and meditation in the mornings as soon as I wake up, and I found the same thing that I feel very grounded throughout my day. I'm a lot calmer. I handle situations with a lot more ease and fluidity when I have centered myself first and grounded myself first, which I think that's a lot of things that people don't do. I know that I used to just like wake up and then it was just like run around all day. And then I would come home just completely mentally exhausted and drained and then repeat the same thing every single day. And it was just a terrible cycle to be stuck in. So you're definitely right. Taking time out for yourself in the morning definitely helps with focus. So where are you in your journey now?
Mm. In terms of the thinkers or everything in general, life.
Let's do both. Let's do thinkers first and then everything in general.
Okay. Okay. So with the thinkers right now, um, and this is a good time to introduce the camp.
Yeah.
Okay. So we currently actually we're still doing workshops and I'm still speaking at universities this month. I'll be at the University of Delaware, NYU, and Drexel giving workshops to students, one about navigating identity, the other one about systems thinking for social change, the other one about radical leadership and how we need radical leadership in the world today. Um, and we recently, just last week, launched a summer camp for high school girls, which I'm really excited about because this is our first long-term program for high schoolers, and
Mhm.
it'll be for 13 to 16-year-old girls, depending on their grade, incoming 9th, 10th, 11th graders. And we'll really be going through our entire curriculum about, the inner and outer, which I mentioned earlier, navigating identity, redefining narratives, redefining leadership, which I also mentioned earlier. And which I really love about having a 4-day program is that students will be able to develop relationships and deep bonds with each other and really be in community on this journey, because I think that is essential, having these powerful experiences and having people to share them with. And then after the program, one thing that I find really important after I finish my workshops is to continuously follow up with attendees and participants. And so afterwards, we'll have a 2-month virtual program where we'll be having like accountability programs, constantly be on phone calls and have meetings, and it'll kind of be a medium commitment type of thing. There won't be high commitment, but it'll just be a way for the program attendees, for me to be able to check in with them. And during the program, we'll also be having women entrepreneurs and leaders and creatives come and visit the camp and actually give workshops to these students so that they can also learn what other types of careers and what other ways there are of living. And so I hope to also bring in more of those types of mentors on calls during the virtual program. And I'm really excited because this is the first time we've ever done anything like this. And, we've always done it on a small scale with a full day program or a couple hour program, but I think it's more impactful when it's consistently over a longer period.
Yeah. It's definitely totally immersive to be there for 4 days, 3 nights, 4 days, right? So for 3 nights, 4 days to be completely immersed in this positivity and growth mindseted environment where everybody is there for the same reason and everybody is getting something different out of it to really connect to themselves and who they are, to really grow and become better versions of themselves. And I think that's really, really important. I'm so happy that you are also on the same vibe and same wavelength of mentoring these kids to be able to self-actualize and be able to reach that new level of inner development and also outer development when it comes for that inner outer thing. So I really like that. And I think that this is an opportunity of a lifetime for kids to be a part of. I wish I had something like this, like what you're describing, to be a part of as a kid. And I think parents would really be missing out if they didn't get their daughters involved in this, because our girls and boys too, but our girls definitely need a boost in self-confidence because they're also amazing people and they're doing such a great job and they have such great potential, and we need to help unlock that. So I'm really happy that that's what you're working on and that's what you're doing. My final question for you is, if you had one truth to pass on to the next generation, to the kids, and all of your books that you have written, imagine this, you are now 99 years old and you are on your deathbed and you're about to go away forever, and everything that you have so far accomplished has been erased. So Thinkers Global's gone, Ahana's gone, your 10 million books are also gone, any other program that you've done, everything has been erased. There is nothing about you from in history. What is one truth that you can pass on to our kids and our future generations that would really help grow them to the next level?
Wow. Can I give you 2?
Sure.
Okay. I'll make them short. The first one, which I've mentioned a bunch earlier, is the mind. If you do nothing else in your life, but strengthen your mind, then that's all you need.
Dimitri, you can come sit down for a second. We'll see you later. Dimitri, you come sit over here, buddy. You should listen to this anyways. Come have a seat. All right, keep going.
Okay. So if you do nothing else but strengthen your mind, that's the first thing. And the second thing is being uncompromising. And that's something that's taken me a very long time to learn. But being uncompromising in your relationships, in your health, in the people that you surround yourself with, like friends, that falls into relationships, and the things that you want to accomplish. Because I think so often we give ourselves a cop-out. We say, oh, I don't have this, or I don't have this, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not here yet. and we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard. And then we kind of use that as an excuse not to do something, or not to become the people that we want to be, or not surround ourselves with the people that we want to actually be around. And I think two things are really important: having a strong mind and being around the right people. And I think if we can be uncompromising with ourselves about those two things, then we can change so much in our life. So that's my answer.
That's awesome. Those are I'm really happy that you asked if you could do two, because both of those are really important. Having a strong mind and being uncompromising, and like, I love it. That's exactly what we should pass on to the next generation. So I want to thank you for coming on to this podcast. I really enjoyed it, and I know that a lot of our families and parents will enjoy it as well. And we're so proud of you. I can definitely say that I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that you're accomplishing so much in your life, and you're really making a difference in the world, and you're making an impact in the world. And I think that's what's really important. And it touches my heart and makes me feel so, it makes me feel really good that you are making a real difference in the world. And I'm really happy that I know you, and you are definitely a wonderful role model for all kids all around the world. And I wish you nothing but success in the world. And parents, definitely join her at her summer camp. It's going to be life-changing. It's going to be a big sorry. Yeah, it's definitely going to be life-changing for a lot of little girls, and I know that you're going to show them the right path. So thank you so much for coming on. Parents, I will attach a link onto this video so that way you guys can register. How many spots are available? Like 15 or 16, right?
15.
All right, so there's only 15 spots that are available. There aren't like 100 spots available yet. There will be soon. Not at this one, but in the future. But for this camp, there's only 15 spots that are available, and this camp is going to be at a high demand. So get in your spots as soon as possible. When does registration open?
Registration has opened, and we're getting
it's already open. Okay, so get in, go to the link. I'm going to attach it to this video so that way you guys can do that. Rena, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll definitely have you on for another one.